Good?
This conference will now.
Okay, the Jetsons are here. All right, so for anybody who's online listening, apologize for the delay. We had a little technical difficulty. We are going to call the meeting to order. Please call the roll. And if it's all right, while I'm talking, I'm going to take my mask down so people can hear me okay, but please call the roll.
Alderman Kittle.
Here.
Alderman Breeze.
Here.
Alderman Weinmeyer.
Here.
Alderman Montello.
Here.
Alderman Volkert.
Here.
I have Alderperson Kraft and Mayor Horn is absent.
And I just want to pass along, there's some illness there for both of those individuals. That's why they're not in attendance tonight. So I know they would appreciate the thoughts to feel better. All right, would you all please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty. Before I ask for an adoption of the agenda, we'd like to, I have a proposal to change two items that are at the end. And let me get to that page. It is items 813 and 814. Police chief is attending virtual, and it works better for him. And I know that individuals who are really interested in that are here as well. So I'm asking that the agenda be modified to move those to the beginning of new business. And if that's okay, then I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Move to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. All right, public comments. Anybody wish to make a public comment? I don't know if we need to turn my mic down a little bit. I might blast us right out of here. Okay, technical.
good.
Yeah, thanks. All right, consent agenda.
Move to approve consent agenda.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Is that aye or roll call?
Aye.
Aye.
All those in favor signify, discussion?
Aye.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Did you have something you wanted to say? Okay. I'm not quite sure how to handle this, Jim, because the public comments time has passed. This is new to me. Go ahead, but step to the microphone.
I would like D, changes to Civic Center, Mayor's Office, and parking. Change that to the next council meeting. I've got some questions on that. And I talked to Noah today, and I talked to Fred about that too. And Noah said there's not really a rush on this at all, but I had a few questions, and some of the moves, some of the people don't even know if they want to move, stuff like that. And I have a question about the mayor's office. And like I said, there's no rush on this, and I'd like to have that just postponed until next meeting so there can be a little more discussion on that.
Okay, it's already been approved, so it's something that can be talked about later, but it has already been approved. Consent agenda has been approved.
We can just put it back on the agenda, that one
Okay.
particular item.
But we haven't, as of right now, we haven't. It's already, the consent agenda has been approved.
Right.
So it would take an action to put it back into new business or whatever.
Correct.
So
At this meeting or
No, at the next meeting.
next meeting?
Yeah.
sometime in the future, it's not an issue nobody can talk about, but staff here does have some things to do in that transition. And so as of right now, that is the plan.
Okay, yeah, I wasn't sure how to approach this, if I was supposed to speak right away or not, because, yeah,
In all due respect, I'm not sure why you're speaking about it at all. In all due respect, I'm not sure why you're speaking about it at all.
because I have some questions on it.
Okay, but you don't have questions like just a citizen of of this community has a question about it.
I know.
So if
As
this
a
is
citizen
something
of
that's
this
an issue that could present itself in April, I mean, whatever. But as of right now, it's approved. If it's brought back up in a further agenda or another agenda, it certainly can be.
Okay.
All right?
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, old business. We have, moving on to old business, we have board and commissions, couple of people that are recommended by staff. Police and Fire Commission, Michael Hedges, and Public Safety Committee, Bill O'Connell. So I would entertain a motion. And the staff has done their due diligence, and they are recommending these two appointments. So if there's a motion to approve those.
Before we get to that, can you tell me again who? Because I don't see it on the,
Sorry, let me pass this out. It might be easier. I will read the names again.
That's not in our packet.
Okay. Yeah, it's a late ad, my bad. Michael Hedges to the Police and Fire Commission, and then Bill O'Connell to Public Safety. And like I said, staff has done their due diligence. They did the interview process, and they are recommending them both for appointment.
motion to approve the appointments and suspend the rules.
Okay. There's a motion made. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, motion's made and second. Is there any further discussion?
Yeah,
Is there any way that we could just table this for now and maybe have them come in at the next meeting and tell us a little bit about themselves?
Well, Ron, to your point, staff has already done that.
Okay.
So they have a process that they've set up.
But I'm the one that's going to be voting on them, and I haven't been told anything about themselves.
Okay?
Yeah, so both, so all the applicants complete a board and commission application form where they write about their background or their qualifications. And then Michelle Scanlon and I met individually with each of them for about a half hour and kind of learned more about their background. So if the council wasn't comfortable approving them tonight, we could table the matter. We could bring, if you wanted to see copies of their application form, those are public record. But we felt both individuals would be very good additions to those respective boards and commissions. And they would be, after they would do their, be sworn in with their oath, they would be eligible to serve already this month. And so the Public Safety Committee would have their meeting later this month in February. And the Police and Fire Commission would also be scheduling an upcoming hearing. So both would be eligible to participate right away. If the council did want to table those items, you certainly can.
I just wasn't aware that had taken place. And believe
Yeah.
me, I have all the trust in the city staff here. So
I was thinking the same thing, Ron. I just wanted to ask Noah and Michelle if they're comfortable with these selections. Obviously, they are. I don't necessarily want to set a precedent for me, because literally if you set a precedent to see that person or that person, we really should see and be interviewing all people for all commissions and all boards. If you're going to pick apart certain ones, I don't think that's fair. And I just wanted to make sure that Noah and Michelle were comfortable with these selections, and if they are, then I'm ready to vote.
yeah, me too.
And ultimately, they're the mayor's appointments. I do just want to say, even though Mayor Horn isn't here today, he is aware of the appointments. And so Michelle and I met with both individuals, and then I spoke with the mayor and talked about, so he had an opportunity as well. So I do just want to say it's not, my pick or Michelle's pick, but we did the interview process with them both.
Hey, Noah, I have a question.
Go ahead, Tom.
So how does that normally work? Are those openings posted somewhere or so that people are aware of it? Or how do you actually just come up with the name? Is it just?
Yeah, so for any boarding commission, we have an application page available on the city website. And so whether there's a vacancy or not, any member of the public can complete an application. We keep it on file. So even if there isn't a vacancy at that time, when there is an opening, we can look and say, okay, we have, these 3 or 5 people have expressed an interest in the past. We can reach out to them to see if they would still be interested. In this case, we had vacancies on our Public Works Committee, our Public Safety Committee, and the Police and Fire Commission. The Police and Fire Commission had vacancies, and then if you recall, the City Council added citizen representatives to the other 2 committees. And so we promoted it on our City of New Richmond Facebook page, but it is something people can fill out at any time, and they can check several different boards or commissions. There's not a separate application for various groups, and we do keep those on file. So if someone, whether they're new to the community or a lifelong resident, they could check the box for every committee if they wanted to. And something that we look to see what that person's background and area of expertise and their passion would be. And we're always looking for more people who are willing to serve.
So you kind of have a queue of folks in line in case the vacancies happen.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right. All right.
Sometimes,
Thank you, Noah.
sometimes there's a queue. Any further discussion on this issue? Motion's been made and seconded. Did you have anything you want to add?
Well, we have to get going on this. No, I have nothing else to add.
Okay, please call the roll.
Alderman Kittle,
Yes.
Alderman Breeze,
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier,
Yes?
Alderman Montello.
Yes.
Alderman Volkert.
Yes.
All right, now I realize, my bad, I was mixing two things, old business and that first thing of new business. Well, I don't know if it's okay after I promised our audience we were going to change the agenda. I want to go back to the old business issue, the responsibility of boards and commissions, chairpersons, and city staff. I think y'all were provided this draft policy. Does anybody have any questions about it, really kind of outlining what it all is and how it's supposed to work? I guess really I would say putting it in writing. You have a policy there relative to chairpersons and staff responsibilities for committees, et cetera. We're looking to approve that policy as it's been presented. Does anybody have anything they want to say about that?
No, I've read it over. I think it's a little bit different than normal, but the changes are, to me, warranted and good ideas.
Okay. Is that a motion?
I will make a motion to approve the amendments.
All right.
Scrolling down here.
I think just the draft policy, chairperson and staff responsibilities.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Alderman Breeze,
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier,
Yes?
Alderman Montello.
Yes.
Alderman Volkert,
Yes.
Alderman Kittle.
Yes.
All right, now we're going to move to item 813 on your agenda, Ordinance 573, provisional liquor license. And is this, Noah, you got this?
Yep, I can start with this. And we do have Chief Yelich on via phone here with us as well. So included in your packet is a draft ordinance. This would be a text amendment to our city code, which would allow staff to issue a provisional liquor license to an establishment after they've submitted a complete application to the state. And so this doesn't mean that if we grant a provisional license, a business opens, effective immediately. We would still work with the police department and with the state, make sure all the proper paperwork has been submitted and there's no concerns. Really what this does is typically there would be a 30-day notice period required where we publish it in the newspaper. This would allow that business to, if granted, they would be able to open sooner. And so hence in the language in there, it's not to exceed 60 days. So basically it would speed up kind of that notice process that we would typically follow. So this is something that is allowed by state statute. So there are other communities that have this in place. And again, something that we'd have close communication both with the state and with the police department, make sure there's no outstanding issues. And it likely is something that if we're granted, then they may actually receive their permanent license, if you will, from the state, in the following days or weeks. So really, it's just shortening that public notice period. So happy to answer any questions that you have, or Michelle or Craig Yelich, if they have any comments as well.
From what I understand, it's super important that people realize that what this does, and you touched on it, Noah, it merely reduces the notice period. It doesn't alleviate any requirements by the state to get the license. And in fact, the state still tells us, yes, you can go ahead and issue the license. It doesn't change the authority of the city to grant a license, only it shortens the time after all requirements have been submitted.
Correct.
So,
Kind of. There's a bit of a caveat to that. So the notice period still happens. So that 30-day wait for the permanent, the posting to the newspaper, the council consideration, all of that still happens. But during the time that we're waiting for the 30 days to pass, it allows the business to sell alcohol.
Right, I was just making,
yes,
I was just
for
making
them.
the point that whatever the requirements that are out there have to be turned in,
Correct.
and somebody's checking
Yep.
a box.
Yep.
But it reduces, so you would say normally there's a notice period, so if it's 30 days, whatever,
Right.
you'd have to wait till that 30 days has lapsed. In this case, that's not the case. Once the boxes have been checked, that all requirements have been met, you can shorten that part of the process, I guess was my point, but I appreciate you saying that.
Mr. President, I'd make a motion to approve ordinance 573, and I have comments after the.
Okay, so we do have a motion to approve ordinance 573. Is there a second?
Second it.
Motion's been made and seconded. All right, further discussion.
I guess, is Chief Yellick on, and
He
does he
is.
have any comments
Yes.
before I?
No, Pete, thank you. I am on. I don't have any comments on it. I think Michelle and Noah touched on it. And I think, it meets the state statutes and I don't have any issue with it.
I think this is an important ordinance. This relates to businesses in our community. And tough at times have been sometimes with our businesses. I think it's important that we as a city try to support our businesses as much as we possibly can. I think this is a very strong way of supporting our businesses in the community.
All right, any further discussion?
Well, maybe the chief can help me out with it. What can they do the day they apply that they wouldn't have to do if they waited that 30 days? So if they can literally apply, how long before they can sell? I mean, I know they had to wait 30 days prior to this, but if they can sell liquor right away, I don't get why we're.
Well, my understanding is this is an ordinance that brings it to the establishment can start selling liquor faster than waiting the entire 30 days for the state.
But what I mean is, why the 30 days in the first place then? Is it our city ordinance?
Oh, it's the state
I
takes
think
that long to
just
review it.
is how long it takes the
But the
to
state is
process.
saying that we can make a provision that we could sell right away.
And it's a temporary provision.
Well, yeah. I get
Craig,
that.
it allows the public to see the posting in the newspaper,
Yep.
and they can come to the council meeting. So when someone comes in and applies for a liquor license, if we don't have a city council meeting scheduled, that 30 days gives us time to get this put on an agenda, get it posted, so the public has an opportunity to come in and talk to council if they don't agree with the issuance of that liquor license. So that's what the normal 30-day process accounts for. It gives us time to post it in the newspaper, post it on a meeting agenda, and bring it in front of council. So all of that will still happen. If somebody from the public doesn't agree with the issuance of a liquor license, they can come in and speak to that in those 30 days. And then council ultimately decides when this changes from a temporary to an actual license. So this, anyone who's offered a provisional or who's granted a provisional license by the city administration, NRPD, and the state, it still is only temporary until city council approves it.
So for example, if we received an application in the middle of February, it may not actually come to the council until
March.
Or potentially even the April meeting, depending on how long that process is. So this basically allows staff the ability to allow that business to open. That 30-day process is still going to be followed. It's still going to come to the council, but hopefully it's a more business-friendly approach. So, some of those things similar to plan commission or other items where there's things where you have to do a class 2 notice in the newspaper, a public hearing, some of those things. So this just allows that process to be expedited, but we still have to follow and make sure that, to Alderman Mantella's point, all those boxes are still being checked, so.
Yeah, I think in this case, it's super important to understand that the state has to still give the okay before you can do anything.
Yeah, I get that. I'm okay with it. I just wondering why we haven't done this in the past. Only because we haven't had this ability to do that.
Yeah, so we've never had this ordinance in place, but there are communities that
That have
have.
it. And the state is okay with the ordinance.
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, I think it's fair to say the state was a little surprised we hadn't
Right.
approved this already.
Okay.
So, all right, any further discussion? Please call the roll.
Alderman Weinmeyer,
Yes.
Alderman Montello.
Yes.
Alderman Volkert,
Yes.
Alderman Kittle,
Yes.
Alderman Vries.
All right, motion passes. St. Patrick's Day Parade 2022.
So earlier this year, we had parade permits that were approved for Fun Fest and the Hometown Holiday Parade. We received an application on February 2nd for the St. Patrick's Day Parade, which would be proposed to be held on March 17th at 4:00 p.m. and a similar route to years past. So starting on West 3rd Street, proceeding on Knowles Avenue, then going west on West 1st Street, down towards the Catholic Church, just making that full circle. The police department will submit a request to detour traffic on Knowles Avenue. So again, it is a state highway, so we do have to have state approval to shut that down. It is a very short window of time for the state to approve that. So in the event that that route wasn't approved in time, we may have to look at using local streets. So it may be looking at a block over or something. So when it comes to local streets, we have that approval, but anytime it's a state highway, we submit that to the state. And typically that's more of, and Chief Ela could correct me, I think that's typically more of a 60-day turnaround. So it is a short window for the approval. The parade does have the support of other local businesses. The parade hasn't been hosted the last 2 years due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So last parade was held in 2019, but and so at this time, I will say there's no other extension of premise or amplifying device permits have been issued. There's been some uncertainty of is there going to be a parade, is there not going to be a parade? So if this was approved this evening, that would also allow those businesses to apply for those if they wanted extension of premise for patrons to take alcoholic beverages out on the sidewalk outside their business, or if someone was looking to have some type of outdoor band or event, they would have some guidance for sure if whether or not the event was going to take place. So I did want to provide Chief Ehrlich an opportunity. I know you are calling in here remotely, but anything that you'd like to add?
Yeah, thanks, Noah. And yeah, the process would be that if the city council does approve this parade tonight, our next step would actually, we have to get permission from St. Croix County to use their county roads for the detour. And then once we secure that from the county, then that's when we make application to the state. The state does to have these things in 60 days in advance. I know we're within that time frame. I'm still fairly confident we can get it done. We've done some upfront legwork. We haven't actually applied for the permits or anything, but we have made some phone calls that says that we could probably still get it done between now and then. So, there's still a couple of steps that we have to do. So, I think timeliness, I guess, is the best route. And then one other thing is I know in the past, and I don't know if we did it in the January meeting, maybe Michelle can talk about this, but I believe what's been done in the past is that the extenuation of premise was handled previously in a motion for like any parade, and any business that serves liquor on the parade route automatically gets an extension of premise. I think that was part of the motion in the past, but Michelle can maybe touch on that, because then that would cover St. Patty's Day, it would cover Fun Fest and the hometown holiday. So
I don't believe it was part of the verbiage this year. I can double check, but it wasn't that long ago that I would have forgotten. So it certainly can be handled with each event as they approach. So if we were to approve the parade today, whoever makes the motion can include that extension of premise along the parade route. That doesn't extend the backside. So if the parade went down Knowles, it wouldn't give an extension of premise to Champs or Mallards out their back door. It's only along the parade route, and it typically commences 1 hour before the parade begins and then ends after the parade. And then as we approach Fun Fest and Hometown Holiday, I'll make a note to include each of those.
So if we make this motion, to approve and include any establishment on the front side of the parade, that doesn't preclude them from asking for extension of premises to the back at another date.
Correct.
Then I'll certainly make this motion to approve, pending the state approval of the route with an alternate route if we are unable to close Knowles, with the extension of premises to the establishments that serve liquor on the parade side.
Got it.
I just want a clarification. When you say on the parade side, you mean the parade
First,
route?
You want me to second that?
Yep.
No, I wanted to ask somebody said,
Yes,
yeah, you.
parade route.
Feel free.
I'll second that.
All right, then the other thing I want to just throw out is what happens, motion to approve pending state approval of this route with an alternate route if we were unable to close Knowles.
Correct.
So does, just in terms of what your intent is, the extension of premises, if the parade's not on Knowles Avenue, because it can't be, there is no extension of premises. Is that what that's what your motion's saying? There would be no reason to have an extension of premise.
There wouldn't be because it's not going down
Right.
Knowles. Now, it may go on a different street at the front of their business.
Got it. But I'm just saying that it's just, this doesn't, again, I just want to make sure I understand that it is the route. That's where the extension of premise applies to if you're on the parade route.
And it doesn't preclude someone from getting an extension at a later date. Because
For sure.
We're
Got
gonna
it.
have, if we can't close Knowles, we'll have an alternate route.
Yep.
We don't know what that alternate route's gonna be.
Right.
We'll wait for that and then
Sure. All right. Any further discussion? Hearing none, call a roll.
Alderman Montello?
Yes.
Alderman Volkert?
Yes.
Alderman Kittle?
Yes.
Alderman Breeze?
yes.
Alderman Weinmeier?
Yes.
Motion passes. Thanks, chief. All right.
Thanks,
move-
guys. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, thank you. All right, we are to, under new business, 8.2, ordinance 570, zoning amendment, 1367 Pinewood Trail.
I have a PowerPoint for this one.
Want to go to the next? So we have two zoning changes that are being proposed this evening. Both of these went to the Plan Commission at their meeting last week. One is in regards to some Manitou properties. This is the building located near Subway, the space owned by Bill Buell. And then 1367 Pinewood Trail. This is located off of County Road A in the Woodland Creek development, located near Woodland Creek Park near the tennis courts. So just kind of for reference.
You mean the non-tennis courts?
Or I'm sorry,
Oh,
the
come
basketball
on.
hoops, yes.
Yeah, the non-tennis courts.
Proposed? Intended?
15 years ago, there you go.
Intended?
Yeah, 15 years ago, proposed, okay.
So Manitou Properties first, this is at 156 High Street. In terms of the process, when it comes to rezoning applications, it's reviewed first by staff. We do notice it in the newspaper. I went to the Plan Commission on February 1st, and then it's before the council tonight for the final approval. This section of our community is guided for mixed-use corridor, some more commercial type uses. Currently, it is zone Z7, which is our industrial zoning designation. Basically, this was from when the office was still being utilized more for, Doughboy, former feed. And really, the applicant's intended use is to allow, commercial business or things beyond just an industrial type of use.
Noah, can I interrupt you for a second?
Yes.
So I think you're talking about the second thing on the agenda. The first one listed is 1367 Pinewood.
Oh, I'm sorry, we have the wrong.
Oh, sorry, did I go in the wrong order?
They're there.
Just in case anybody
have
was
one.
Sorry.
confused.
So same process for both. Both went to the Plan Commission last week.
There.
So here we go. So currently the property is zone Z2 suburban. We would be proposing to zone the Z4 general urban district, which would be that light purple color on the screen. We had actually rezoned the properties to the north to that purple color last year. And this parcel was actually overlooked. We actually thought this was part of the parkland property. So there's one parcel on the south side. And so if you see on the screen, you have kind of a long stretch of purple. There's one section of green. That's a stormwater pond. And then this parcel would be just to the south of that. And so it's trying to have consistent zoning with the parcels there further to the north.
You want to do these in succession, or do you want to do them all at once, Mike? Or
I think let's just, if he's done with this one, I would entertain a motion.
I
Yep,
would
so
make
the
the
proposal would
motion.
be to go from Z2 to Z4 as recommended by the Plan Commission.
Right. Being it's just a zoning change that was mistakenly not done in the first place, I would make the motion to approve the amendment for the zoning map for 1367 Pinewood.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Please call the roll.
Alderman Volkert,
Yes.
Alderman Kittle,
Yes.
Alderman Vries,
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier,
Yes.
Alderman Montello.
Yes. All right, next one, please.
So I had started describing this one earlier. This is the space, and so currently is zone Z7. We would be proposing to change it from Z7 to Z6. Z6 is the same zoning designation as most of our downtown businesses. So this would just allow some additional uses to take place in that building. The property owner is looking to lease that space out. There is an interested occupant that attended the last Plan Commission meeting and spoke in favor of the project. They're looking to start a church in this space, and currently that would not be allowed. With the zoning change, however, that use would be allowed. So we do think this is still consistent with the zoning designation for the surrounding properties and along Knowles Avenue. So the DRC and the Plan Commission both recommended approval of the zoning change from Z7 to Z6.
I would also make the motion to approve the zoning change for the 156 High Street. It's basically just a zoning change for ease of use, and I think that's a good idea, being consistent with the rest of the downtown.
All right, there's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? I actually have a question. So I see the way it's listed here, ordinance 572 and ordinance 570. We don't have to suspend the rules for those, do we?
These have been properly noticed, and they were presented at Plan Commission as well. so
Okay.
You
So,
do not have to suspend the rules.
all right, thank you. So this is ordinance 572. Any further discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Alderman Kittle?
Yes.
Alderman Vries?
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier?
Yes.
Alderman Montello?
Yes.
Alderman Volkert?
Yes.
All right, 8.4, motion passes. Public Works Committee recommendation, wheel loader.
So the next several items have been reviewed by the Public Works Committee previously. The first item is a wheel loader. This was identified in the capital improvement plan for this year. Included in your packet is the tabulation of the bids that were received. The Public Works Committee recommended approving the purchase of a 2022 John Deere from McCoy Construction in the amount of $258,670. The Public Works Committee further recommended trying to sell the two existing loaders via online auction. And so if they did not sell at auction for those desired amounts, we would be able to get a trade-in. And so if the council was comfortable tonight recommending proceeding with the purchase of the new wheel loader, we would also, as part of that motion, look to declare the two existing ones as surplus. That way we could notice those on the municipal surplus auction site. Otherwise, we would have to bring those back at a future council meeting to declare them as surplus property.
And I think it was worth noting, I think this was the piece of equipment that this wasn't necessarily the low bid. Is that correct?
So we have a couple items tonight that you'll see did not meet the minimum specifications that had been identified. And so in this case, this wasn't and obviously in some cases we have different amounts for the trade-in value as well.
Yep.
So there was, you can see in the tabulation, this was 100, including the possible trade-in value. This actually would have been the second lowest. In terms of the actual bid amount, just the bid amount itself, this was actually the highest of the three. So this was 258, there was a 253 and a 239 as well. And so I know the Public Works Committee had a lot of discussion on the specifications and the differences between those. And really, this was one that the staff felt met our needs and met the specifications for the bid.
And I only bring it up because it isn't necessarily low bid always wins.
Correct.
And there's a reason why it doesn't always win. And I know that Public Works and just the work that went into this loader for various reasons meets the needs of the city the best.
Correct.
So, all right. Is there a motion on the floor to approve the Public Works recommendation to purchase the wheel loader?
I would make that motion to approve the 2022 wheel loader and approve the other two loaders as surplus.
All right, there's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion?
Yes, I just want the council, I'm in favor of this, but I want the council to understand that in our CIP, this was, capital project summary, was estimated to cost $230,000. Quite a bit more than that. So while this was part of our budget plan, quite a bit higher than what
Forecast. So, but, good point. But the CIP probably didn't deal with the net purchase price, right? So we had in the budget to spend
No,
230.
they thought there'd be $35,000 of.
And the two of them together are, am I reading that right? It's $73,000. Am I reading that right, Noah?
Yes, so based on the trade-in value, yeah, so we're approving the bid amount, but then obviously depending on how much we get at auction for them versus the trade-in, that net cost would potentially be that 185,670 figure that you see in the packet.
So to your point, and it's well made, but really, we're authorizing them to spend $185,670. I understand that we're going to try to sell those loaders if they bring more, but if we don't, we are trading them in, and that's our net numbers, the $185,670. So a good point, always good to be aware of that.
So I'll have more comments as we go along, but the biggest question I had for all of this was, how are we paying for this equipment? And kind of setting up a little bit of a policy of how we are going to be purchasing high-ticket items and perhaps having some funds set aside prior to coming to the council or Public Works with a high-ticket price. So I just want that to be on record so that
Yeah, another good point.
remember this from year to year.
And since she isn't here tonight, would it be possible that we could call on you so you could recite what she told you about these?
Absolutely.
I appreciate that.
No, it would not.
All right, any further discussion? Please call the roll.
Talking to you.
Alderman Vries,
Yes,
Alderman Weinmeier,
Yes.
Alderman Montello,
Yes.
Alderman Volkert,
Yes.
Alderman Kittle.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. So we are moving on to 8.5, and I'm going to step aside for this one. Public Works Committee recommendation, truck number 48 replacement chassis cab with dump body and plow. Noah, you have the floor.
Thank you. So this truck would replace a current 2001 Dodge Dually, which is currently used for hauling branches and material for smaller projects than what a dump truck would be used for, but bigger projects than what just a traditional pickup truck would be used for. The bid deadline, so I should say, going back in December, the Public Works Committee directed staff to solicit bids. Only one bid was received by the January 13th deadline. This bid was from Bernard's in the amount of $95,333. This would be for a 2021 Ram. This truck did meet all of the required specifications that were outlined. The truck is available, it's on the lot. These are difficult to come by right now, just with the issues we're seeing with inventory for vehicles. And so this was discussed again at the Public Works Committee meeting on January 19th. Public Works Committee did approve the recommendation moving forward with the purchase of this vehicle. This would be a 2021 Dodge Ram from Bernard's. The current 2001 Dodge would be sold to help offset the cost. We estimate that value at $5,000. So Similar to our previous motion, we would, if the council was in favor of this, we'd want to declare the current one as surplus, which would allow us to either trade this in or solicit bids on the surplus auction website. So the recommendation from the Public Works Committee is to move forward with the purchase of the vehicle from Bernard's in the amount of $95,333. And then included in your packet are the specifications for the vehicle itself. So happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Yeah, I would like to make the motion to approve the purchase of the vehicle, the 5500 regular cab, for $95,332.55, I believe it was.
And there was a declaration asked for about surplus property on the existing truck.
Yep.
You want that part of this?
Yep, we can do it as part. So to declare the 2001
As
vehicle as surplus.
Sure,
Yep.
okay, I'll do that.
All right, there's a motion made. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion's made and second. Is there any further discussion?
Yes, I'm also gonna bring up again that in our CIP, this was listed as a $75,000 cost to the city, and we are
All right, nobody can hear you. You really got to be on it.
I'm sorry. I just want to bring up that the forecast when we had our CIP was at $75,000, and we are now spending $95,000. I'm in favor of this, but again, I want the council to understand that we are spending money that was not necessarily set in our CIP.
Any further discussion? Please call the roll.
Alderman Weinmeyer,
Yes.
Alderman Montello,
Abstain.
Alderman Volkert,
Yes.
Alderman Kittle,
Yes.
Alderman Vries.
Yes.
Motion carries. 8.6, Public Works Committee recommendation, compact track loader and wide area mower.
So these two items were discussed at the Public Works Committee meeting this past Friday morning. And these were two items that were identified in the capital improvement plan, however, had not been shown as funded. Really a lot of discussion and analysis. And I want to recognize Ray and Iltz, Dave Pufall, Eric Evenson for their work on it. And looking at, really what's in the city and the taxpayers' best interest in terms of leasing versus owning some of this equipment. And so the recommendations from the Public Works Committee last week were to go ahead with the purchase of a John Deere track loader from Midwest Machinery in the amount of $64,368 and approving the purchase of a John Deere WAM, a wide area mower from Midwest Machinery in the amount of $61,779. And using a 3-year note for both of these, with the idea that we would sell both of these items in 5 years. In years 4 and 5, continue to set aside cash, and this is, I think, to Alderman Vries's point, so that when it comes to purchasing these vehicles in the future, we would have some cash set aside, and then we would also be trading in the vehicle as well. Where oftentimes in the past, we've used, we'll purchase new, we own the equipment until there's little to no value left, and then we're looking at having to borrow funds for it. And so continuing to make those payments in years 4 and 5, just the 3-year note, and then looking to trade both of these vehicles in 5 years from now. So the analysis for both, I'm just looking here at my notes. In the case of the skid steer, this would actually have an advantage of $18,000. With the wide area mower, an advantage of $9,800. And obviously there's a lot of factors based on inflation, what our cost is going to be for future leases, expected maintenance that we would have. But we do believe that owning both of these vehicles is advantageous to the city from a financial perspective versus having to continue to make lease payments as we've been doing. There was one additional vehicle, which was a tractor. The analysis actually showed the opposite, that it was more financially advantageous for us to continue to make lease payments on that. And that was a tractor that the Public Works Committee discussed last week as well. So did want to look if Alderman Vries or Kittle, both serving on, and Alderperson Kraft is on here tonight, but if either of you wanted to make any additional comments based on your discussion on Friday.
No, I I'm a big proponent of ownership. I think it's a better value to own than it is to lease in my personal life, and it's the same as what I think of business life. I think I'd rather own something than lease it. I realize that there's some turnover on these pieces of equipment, and that's a reality. I think the idea of saving a little bit of money at the end of these and setting money aside is always good. We've been trying to do that for a long time, for the last 7, 8 years, trying to set money aside for capital expenditures that you know that you're going to need to use as opposed to borrowing for. We've been trying to do that. It's not easy. It's not perfect, but I think that's what we are always going to try and do, and I'd rather own something than lease something.
Once again, this wasn't necessarily the low bid. And there was a reason why this got picked. As far as recommendation goes, do you remember what that was?
For which one, the Wham or the front loader?
I guess I'm looking at the compact track loader.
I do not, then.
Guy, here's a tabulation of bids. I'm just gonna pass that down. I thought I read the comments, but I guess you two were on the Public Works Committee, just, I understood there was a rationale for picking that one. And I don't know if you remember in the conversation.
Well, I think there's some of the equipment that the city currently owns that would fit with what is being recommended to purchase as opposed to a different brand.
Well, and
Therefore, that auxiliary equipment is not going to work as well.
I also understood, though, that there was a benefit to being able to get it serviced locally. Obviously, the city buys something that isn't sold locally. You can't get it serviced locally necessarily. So when it's a brand like this. So there was, again,
I don't think there was a drastic change. I mean, it wasn't a lot. It was, what, $500, $1,000 at the most?
yeah, I don't, when I look at this tabulation of bids, there was 7 compact track loaders that were bid. And a couple of them were were Kubota. There's a New Holland on there. There's a couple of New Hollands. There's a Cat and a Case. So the recommendation is to buy the John Deere partly because of the serviceability of that. And as Alderman Vries said, because there's attachments that they have that'll be able to work. So again, I'm just making the point that it isn't necessarily low bid gets it. There's a justification to not take the low bid in this case. So, and I'm sorry, did you make a motion?
I will make the motion to approve the purchase of the John Deere track loader and the John Deere Wham for $64,368 for the loader and $61,779 for the Wham.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion's made and seconded. Any further discussion?
Certainly. This is not much, but a little bit more money than was projected. I think the Wham actually was a little bit less than the forecast, but the skid loader was a little bit higher.
Okay,
I think the idea of financing that Rayanne has suggested for us is a solid plan for us going forward, not having to borrow so much money for these.
I'm super appreciative of the fact that that's kind of the philosophy that's ruling the day, that we try to get ahead of this stuff as much as possible. That's just good, sound financial policy. All right, any further discussion? Motion's been made and seconded, correct, Michelle?
Correct.
Add a second. Please call the roll.
Alderman Montello?
Yes.
Alderman Volkert?
Yes.
Alderman Kittle?
Yes.
Alderman Vries?
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier?
Yes.
All right, motion passes. 8.7, request authorization to bid restroom work for Sather Nature Center.
So this item was discussed previously with the city council. If you recall, we received a grant from the Wisconsin DNR, matching grant, which contributed towards the cost of a trail project, a paved trail that was completed last year, connecting the Nature Center to the Door Prairie restoration. That project actually came in significantly under budget, and so the DNR has allowed us, if we wish, we can use those grant dollars towards construction of a small restroom at the Nature Center. So the action tonight would just be to authorize staff to solicit bids for the construction of that restroom, and we would have to bring the bids back formally to the park board and to the city council, depending on the final cost. So Tonight would just be authorizing us to solicit bids. We would hope to get bids here in the next couple of months, so this project could be completed sometime this spring or summer.
No,
But
what's,
authorize, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead,
I
Mike.
just, a couple questions. Do you know what kind of funds are left that could go towards this?
Yeah, so the grant amount was roughly $230,000. Total project costs came in just under $200,000.
Okay,
But now that is a matching component. And so it's not that $30,000 can just go towards this. So there would be a match from, Parkland Trust Fund or from funds from the city as a one-to-one.
well, the city would have to match
Yes.
if this gets done, and all you're asking for right now is the authorization to solicit bids. Council's still got to deal with this. Well, I'm just going to throw out two thoughts. You're so close to the wastewater treatment plant. Seems like you should be able to kind of roll into something there. And I think former Alderman
your
Kirk
boy.
Lindell would be moved tremendously if the restroom gets built and somehow his name is associated with it. So I'll just offer that. Is there a motion to
Yes,
give
I would
staff
make the motion
authorization?
to request staff, authorize staff to solicit bids for the restrooms at the Nature Center.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion?
Yep, I guess what I want to understand, Noah, is there's $30,000 approximately left over in this grant money. The city would have to authorize another $30,000 for a total of up to $60,000 of money that could be put toward this.
Correct.
Are you saying there's 15 and 15?
Don't know what the bids are yet.
No, I'm forgetting about
Oh,
the.
his
Right.
question is $30,000 of grant money.
Yes. Yep. So if, so say the bid comes in at $40,000, we could use 20,000 from the grant, 20,000 from the city. The remaining 10,000 would, if there's other eligible expenses that could be used, but otherwise the remaining would get returned to the state, and they would then use that for other projects.
Sure.
So,
We can get a bathroom in a necessary location for half price is what we're trying to say.
correct.
Well, that's where the wastewater treatment plant comes in. But anyhow,
How are you gonna go underneath the river? That's what I want to know.
you got to go around, do the trail. Take 'em out there.
But yeah, I think to Pete's point, it's not, free money. So it's not just, well, we can spend up to that amount, therefore we should, because there is that matching component. But if there are other amenities, if there's benches or things that would also qualify, we could look at those things. But it's not that we have to spend up to that full amount. And we hope that the project cost would come in significantly less.
So do you envision, I guess when I read this, I'm thinking about a block building. Is that what you're thinking about?
Yeah, so what we've looked at actually is a pre-manufactured restroom that would just be installed in one day. So we would actually have the utilities stubbed off. It would just be a one unisex stall restroom located near the parking lot. And we've actually looked at somewhere it's precast concrete, and the restroom would actually be installed and up and running generally in about 4 hours.
Do they heat these, so would it be open in the wintertime? I mean, you'd have to if you've got plumbing working, right? Or would it be a seasonal thing?
Likely seasonal, just similar to the restroom at Mary Park.
Right.
Just shut off the water.
So we do have, we've, in years past, we've just had a porta potty there on site. We do see the park getting a lot more use, both with the trail and then as well as with the fat tire bikes. But although in this case, the restroom would still be closed during the winter months.
Sure.
We've since put in electricity out at Sather Nature Center. I think it's gonna be a shelter that's used a lot more with the kayak, with the trail improvements. We're continuing on the park board to come up with money every year to make new bridges out there, repair some of the old bridges. I think it's getting to be a more used park than it had been in the past. And the goats did a great job out there also, so.
And the reality is that if you want people to use it, not having a bathroom is a problem.
Right.
So,
Especially with.
And
kind
with
of the-
electricity also,
Right.
that helped a lot.
for sure.
There was a master plan done a few years ago for the park, and one of the hopes for it too is that local schools would be able to use this actually more as an outdoor classroom, and knowing if you're going to be bringing kids out there for a field trip, you've got to have a bathroom. So.
All right, any further discussion? Please call the roll.
Alderman Volkert,
Yes.
Alderman Kittle,
Yes.
Alderman Vreeze,
Yes,
Alderman Weinmeier,
Yes.
Alderman Montello.
Yes. All right, motion passes. 8.8, Utility Commission recommendation, the jet truck.
So this item went to the Utility Commission at their most recent meeting. Another case where, actually interesting case, we had, the original estimate was $600,000. This project came in significantly under that. And once again, however, this item was not the lowest bid, but however, looking at which bids met the specifications, looking at our previous use of similar, in this case, both of our previous jet trucks were the same company, were both reliable. And also just, in this case, I want to recognize both Bob Meyer and Adam Jackson for the work that they did. Speaking with vendors, speaking of other municipalities that have used some of these, and I'm really looking at what we're going to get the best return on our investment in. And so in this case, although not the lowest bid, staff do recommend purchasing, in this case, the Vactor from McQueen. It met all of the required specifications, has a proven track record for longevity, safety, and efficiency. And we've had a positive working relationship with McQueen when it comes to servicing the equipment. You're not having a service technician coming from Milwaukee to come up to service a vehicle. So we've had very good experience there. In terms of the financial impact, ARPA funds of $250,000 would be used towards the purchase of the jet truck. The remaining portion would be paid for by reserve funds that have been set aside for the purchase of this new vehicle. So this has actually been a vehicle that has been in the CIP for some time, had been postponed during the pandemic, just given the cost of it. But something that the Utility Commission has set aside some funds over the years towards this purchase. So staff would recommend the purchase of the 2022 jet truck from McQueen in the amount of $476,572. And this was also the recommendation of the Utility Commission at their meeting last week.
Quick question for you. I know this gets used for wastewater treatment. Exactly what does a jet truck do?
Cleans out the line.
Yeah, so this is, you know, picture high power water flushing through lines, clearing up debris, you know, things that would otherwise would clog up our main. So it takes a lot of use and abuse over time. It is a you know, very expensive piece of equipment, but definitely gets a lot of use and something that has been viewed as a critical need. I would also say with this motion, if the council was comfortable approving the recommendation from the Utility Commission, we would look to sell the existing 2002 jet truck via public auction with a reserve amount set to $51,000. McQueen would take it in for trade-in at $50,000. So similar to our previous motions, we look to declare it as surplus.
I'd make that motion.
Okay, a motion's been made. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
And specifically, the motion is to approve the bid of $476,572 from McQueen Equipment and also declare the existing 2002 truck surplus equipment. I'm gonna put a reserve on it of $51,000, but if it doesn't bring that at an auction, then we'll get $50,000 trade-in. So the motion's been made and second. Is there any other discussion?
So when we do these, when we do these estimates for what things are gonna cost in the year's future, budgeting for the year's future, what you're saying is it's really not an exact science. Because we estimated this to be 600 and it's 476. We estimated a truck to be 78 and it's 95. I mean, when we do those budgetings for future purchases, we're not always gonna get it exactly right what's gonna cost in a year from now or 6 months from now. And in this particular situation, we probably wanted this or had this on the thoughts for 2 or 3 years.
Correct.
So-
Yeah, there's always going to be some variation. We don't really know until we solicit the bids, and then
Correct.
especially just given inventory issues. You know, if you recall at our last meeting, we were talking about the substation improvements, and we were talking about 50-week lead times, 90-week lead times.
Yeah.
So similar with some of these vehicles, you know, if we solicited bids a year from now, the bids could be very different. They could be very close, just based on the supply. At the same time, we've purchased some vehicles last year that still haven't arrived yet. That's just kind of the nature that we're at. But similar to construction projects as well. You know, we've seen that with some of the park projects we bid out where we don't get any bids. Sometimes we get bids and they're way higher than we expected. And we've had other projects. I look at the police station renovation project where the bids came in less than we had expected. And a lot of very competitive bids within a couple $1,000s of one another on a, $1.5 million project. So
Right.
it really just kind of varies.
And we're just doing our best bet, or we're doing our due diligence for next year, what something might cost.
Yep.
Tough to do though, Craig, with the way prices are going now.
It's
They
incredibly tough
change
to
by
do.
the day or by the week. They're just,
And that truck that you need might be sitting in a ship in the sea
right?
for 12 months. We've ordered things last year or the year before that we're still waiting for, pieces of equipment. So in this day and age, those estimates are tough to do.
Hey, Noah, is this?
Go ahead,
truck-
Tom.
What's the delivery situation on the jet truck?
I'm just looking here in my notes here. The jet truck was actually a little quicker turnaround than what we had anticipated. And actually, I think this was one that would arrive already this spring, where if it were, some of these vehicles, again, it's 12-month wait. So this is something that we would hope to have here in the next few months.
Good.
Thank you.
Is it possible? I'm just disappointed we don't have a PowerPoint for this tonight, complete with video. You know exactly how the jet truck works? So just,
I think you could use it as a shower.
all right. Please, I think there's no further discussion. Please call the roll.
Alderman Kittle?
Yes.
Alderman Breeze?
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier?
Yes.
Alderman Montello?
Yes.
Alderman Volkert?
Yes.
All right, motion passes. We're moving on to 8.9, Utility Commission Recommendation, Primary Wire Purchase.
We have 4 items here that were approved. These regards to our electric department. And Wes Arndt, our electric superintendent, is on with us virtually. You can see him on the screen. So Wes, I will turn things over to you.
Can't hear you, Wes.
Off mute, Wes.
It looks like his microphone's on, but we can't hear you, Wes.
I think while you're trying to get that up, a couple of comments I've got on these next 4 items, being on the Utilities Commission. This is serious consequences of trying to get equipment, and we don't know when any of this stuff that is ordered, how soon it's gonna take. These are items that we don't need today, but we know we will need them. Some of these items are a year or longer, or they have a delivery date. Utility Commission that we need to have equipment in case there's problems.
I will get started. I think as we're still working, I just want to respect everyone's time here this evening. And as soon as we're able to get Wes online
Well,
here.
no, is it possible that he could like call your phone and you can just hold it up to the microphone? Can you hear us, Wes? Wes, nod your head if you can hear us.
Jingle.
I don't know if he can hear us at all.
I've actually got his phone number here, so. Yeah. We'll see if he answers. Looking.
Can you hear me now?
Well, we can hear you. I'm going to hold you up to the microphone here, Wes. So could you hear us at all?
I could, but as I tried to fix my mic, I lost my sound speakers too, so I couldn't hear you. So
All
Hear you
right.
perfect now.
Yeah, we can hear you good. So you want to go ahead and talk about the wire purchase first?
yeah, and I'll talk about the next 3 items: the wire, the single-phase transformers, and the 3-phase transformers. Those are all items that we need to have in inventory to meet the needs of the growing community this summer. With what we expect from residential and commercial growth. The wire specifically is used for our primary extensions to residential and commercial developments. and mainly the single-phase transformers are used for residential development, and we expect what we have in the memo for three-phase transformers to meet what we know of from a commercial standpoint. All of these items are bid through WPPI Energy's joint purchasing program. The bids were a little different for the transformers this year just because of lead times, availability, and the distributors wanted to do a group buy proposal, so we actually had nearly 700 transformers in a group buy that went out to 5 distributors through WPPI. So with that said, the first item was the primary cable purchase. Irby is the distributor of Okanite cable, and we're requesting to order what we expect to need for the year, 5 spools of 2,750 feet at a cost of $40,823.75.
All right, Wes, just stand by. Does anybody have any questions for Wes? All right, do I hear a motion to,
Gonna do these separate?
I think we probably should.
I
Then
would
he
make
can
a
talk.
motion to a primary wire purchase approval.
And the dollar amount, $40,823.75. That's the amount that they're requesting.
Yep.
All right, so we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion? Please call a roll.
Alderman Vries,
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier,
Yes.
Alderman Montello,
Yes,
Alderman Volkert,
Yes.
Alderman Kittle.
Yes.
motion passes. All right, Wes, you've got the floor again, talking about single-phase transformer purchase.
For single-phase transformers, B&B transformer out of Farmington, Minnesota was the lowest bid and the quickest lead time for these transformers. And based on the Utility Commission's recommendation, we request authorization to proceed with the group buy purchase of the single-phase transformers through B&B for a total cost of $108,455.
Anybody have any questions for Wes?
Yeah, well, how many other bids were there? Or is that up to WPPI to kind of keep track of that?
Could you hear that, Wes? The question was, how many other bids were there? And what was the other part, Craig?
Does WPPI do that, or
Does
the group
WPPI do it?
purchase?
How did the bid process work, but were there other bids?
Yeah, there were actually 3 other distributors that bid, and they all bid Howard transformers. And on single-phase transformers, the Howards were out nearly 40 weeks. So it was almost double the lead time and double the price for the Howards that the other 3 distributors bid. So that was a significant difference. B&B historically has done a lot of refurbishing of transformers, and just over the last 10 years have gotten into manufacturing new. So I think they're a smaller player, but they were more nimble in meeting our needs through WPPI.
Any other questions?
Yeah, just Wes, in the future, if we could get all the bids in the bid package so we can understand, because the rationale is perfectly understandable. You should have went with this one because of lead times alone. But just as long as we get other bids so we can see all those other bids also.
Yes,
How many is
definitely
that
do
for?
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Tom?
How many is that for?
How many transformers, sorry, I'm talking to the wrong thing here. How many transformers is this for?
So for single-phase transformers, we're at 35 transformers.
So the 108,455 is for 35 transformers.
That is correct.
Okay. Any other questions for Wes on this? Do I hear a motion to approve this single-phase transformer purchase?
I make a motion that we approve these single-phase transformers.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion?
For 108,455? Is that the price?
That's the number, 108,455.
Yep.
Please call the roll.
Alderman Weinmeier,
Yes.
Alderman Montello,
Yes.
Alderman Volkert,
Yes.
Alderman Kittle,
Yes.
Alderman Vries.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. All right, Wes, we are talking now about the three-phase transformer purchase.
All right, so on the three-phase, so B&B, I said they came in really good on the single phase. And that's kind of what they wanted to specialize on when they saw the number that WPPI had. So they actually, they had higher bids and longer lead times for three-phase transformers, and they actually responded saying they'd prefer not to do as many. So as we evaluated the bids through the WPPI Joint Purchasing Program, and I'll back up a step. I'm on the WPPI Energy Distribution Services Advisory Group, so am involved in these conversations on awarding bids for the different distributors. So we decided to award the three-phase transformer bids to Irby. They did have pricing was more competitive than the single phase, and the lead times were much better through Irby for the Howard transformers on three-phase. We're expecting 20 weeks. B&B would have been closer to 32 to 40 weeks. So with that said, we chose the Howard transformers for Irby, and I have 4 transformers on this list that I feel we need to meet our commercial demands this summer and have proper inventory for spares. And these 4 transformers came to a total cost of $84,230, and we'd recommend moving forward with this purchase through Irby.
Does anybody have any other questions for Wes? I'll entertain a motion then.
Motion to approve.
Okay, there's a motion to approve the purchase of the 4 three-phase transformers for a total cost of $84,230. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Please call the roll.
Alderman Montello?
Yes.
Alderman Volkert?
Yes.
Alderman Kittle?
Yes.
Alderman Breeze?
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier?
Yes.
All right, Wes, now we're talking about substation upgrades.
Yeah, so at the work session last month, we talked about kind of the larger scope of improving our substations here in the community. We had that discussion as well with the Utility Commission. And we also talked about the purchase of the transformer that would replace one of the 1950s vintage transformers at Knowles or Highview Substation. And Jordan Transformer of Jordan, Minnesota had taken in an old transformer, I should say old, but a used transformer built in the 90s, had some work to be done on it, but they would refurbish that transformer. And they've actually been holding it for us at the direction of Dave Krause from EPS E&D. And they came to me asking for a decision on this unit. And as Dave and I evaluated our needs, what the lead time is for new transformers, which are out roughly 80 to 90 weeks on a new substation transformer, and where we want to be at with the scope of work, we thought this was a good transformer for our needs, and we would recommend moving forward with it. We did talk about the financing impacts, and there's some invoicing milestones with this, and Rayanne at the work session had indicated that we would use cash reserves for the first milestones of purchase of the transformer, and then we'd be seeking financing approvals that would be about Q3. So kind of the next step in financing both this transformer and then the rest of the project.
So Wes, it sounds like you're talking about $838,000, if I got the right number, 820 plus 18,000 transportation costs?
So the Jordan, the initial numbers in the memo where it was a verbal quote from the salesman, and he actually had 2021 labor numbers in that. So when he came back with the final written quote that's attached, dated February 2nd, the cost actually went up to $839,500, based on the change in labor rates and a slight increase in raw materials.
But if I understand, is that with shipping?
The second quote does not include the shipping. That's the transformer itself. He pulled the shipping because he didn't want he didn't want to stick to a number on the shipping. He said it should be cheaper, but he didn't want, being so far out with lead time, he didn't want to put a formal number in there. So the $839,500 in the quote is just for the transformer.
And you're anticipating that shipping's probably gonna be, could be an additional $20,000.
We'd estimated it at about 18,000. Yes.
All right. Anybody have any questions for Wes on the substation transformer purchase?
Wes, I got a question. Where are we at with updating various substations around the city?
Yeah, so, as we looked at this big project, the scope kind of involves all three substations. The main White Pine substation is our newest sub, doesn't have much major work to do. It's basically bringing it up to speed with bringing SCADA on so we can remotely monitor, receive alarms, place the substation in. Looks like my sound came back. Sorry about that. Use protective features when the line crew's working on energized lines. So that's the bulk of the upgrade at White Pine. But we're kind of looking at a 3-year approach to updating all three substations. So the first year would be focused on White Pine, and the next 2 years would be focusing on Highview and Knowles. And Knowles has the biggest overhaul. 1950s vintage transformers with breakers and relay controls that are aging and end of life. And for reliability and safety reasons, we feel now's the time to make these improvements on all three substations.
Okay, thank you.
So just so everybody understands then, the pricing that we're being quoted, which is good until Wednesday, if I read this right, February 9th, $839,500 for the substation transformer. That doesn't include transportation. So is there a motion on this item?
I'll move to approve plus shipping costs.
All right, there's a motion to okay the purchase of the substation transformer, I think I'm saying that right, Wes, for $839,500 plus necessary transportation costs to get it here. And I'm assuming that's an install situation. Is that correct, Wes?
Yeah, so they will deliver that transformer and get it set up on site. Obviously, there'll be other substation connections and improvements that are part of the EPS-E&D scope, but Jordan will deliver and make sure that transformer is good to go on site.
All right, so there is a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion? Michelle, please call the roll.
Alderman Volkert,
Yes.
Alderman Kittle,
Yes.
Alderman Vries,
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier,
Yes.
Alderman Montello.
Yes. All right, motion passes. Wes, I'm going to say goodbye to you. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thanks, Wes.
You bet. All right, that concludes the new business portion of our agenda. Communication, you got something about the compost site?
Yeah, so we wanted to highlight just a couple of items. One for the compost site, as you recall, we'll be having a window decal for New Richmond utility customers to place on their vehicle. If township or village residents want to utilize the compost site in the future, they would have to pay a fee as we lease out that city property. And so a letter and the window decals themselves will be mailed this month to residents. We have purchased additional stickers so that if someone moves to the city later this summer, they can come into the utility office and pick one up. The other piece I wanted to highlight was our city website, which you can see on the screen. Officially went live here recently, so I encourage you to check it out. Much more friendly for mobile devices, and just wanted to thank Lori Brinkman, served as the project lead for this, and it turned out really nice. Long overdue. Our city website hadn't been updated for several years, and we know so many people utilize their mobile device when they're looking at our city website. So if any members of the council have any challenges locating anything on here in terms of meeting minutes or things like that, just let us know. It does look different on the home screen, but pretty user-friendly, pretty self-intuitive to find where things are, so.
Ron, can you get that on your flip phone? Can you?
I don't have a flip phone.
To the window decals, so, are we, I see this says window decals will be mailed out later this month. That really isn't the plan, is it?
Yes, they'd be mailed out.
So these are city residents that pay for the service to be out there. A window decal that gets mailed to somebody that's not used. You understand what the challenges could be with that?
Yeah, the other option would be if they'd have to come here to Civic Center to pick them up, we'd save on the postage, but then people are gonna go out there and not have one. So I mean, that could be an option we could look at.
Well, I
if we don't
just,
wanna mail 'em
roughly,
out.
what are we talking about? Is there 4,000 residences this is gonna get mailed to?
We wouldn't save on the postage. The postage is gonna be part of your bill, right?
So yeah, I mean, we are speaking of probably 4,000 of these. I mean,
So,
there's a
well,
cost.
he's saying if we don't mail them, if people come in
Oh.
and get them, I'd be curious to know.
How about we request them to mail them in their?
Sure,
Yeah.
sure. I think somebody should apply for it because is it possible that you could have less than, certainly less than 10% of the city goes out, residents go out there? Because that's what this is for. It's not for people to leave brush on their curb.
Right.
If we continue to pick it up, that's another discussion, but that probably makes the most sense. People can request a sticker and have it mailed to them, and then you have a record
Right.
of who asked for one.
Yep.
They're all generic, or are you gonna write something on, is there a spot to write like a number on there, or?
I'm not positive on that, Mike, in terms of, if they're like as a.
Like
is
a
an
registered
individual
number.
Necessarily registered to use.
They're all generic. This is Lori. There's no registered number on there.
Okay,
Mike, I think if you had people coming in asking to pick one up or ask to be mail, you're really using a lot of staff time. And I think there's an offset there between using staff time and just sending it out to the people. As far as monitoring this and making sure the right people are using it, that's gonna be up to the person that we.
Well, but if I'm responsible for the person that's driving through and I see the sticker, I'm not gonna analyze, I'm not gonna look for their license, or you don't have to prove that you're from Richmond, you've got a sticker.
Correct.
So if I got a sticker and I don't wanna use it, I'll just give it to Uncle Fred from Amory.
Good for you.
well, I think that's a challenge, and part of the reason we did this is to reduce. Because this particular company, like, they're interested in wood products, maybe not as interested in grass. I don't know. But to mail out 4,000 or 4,500 stickers, just when the vast majority of people have no use for that, how hard is it just to request? Whether they come down here or just submit something, they call up and say, hey, can I have a sticker mailed to me? That just seems,
Put it in my bill.
right.
If the council would like, we could put this on our work session agenda for this month. I know it's not really under new business, it's just under communications, but.
Sure, that's probably not a bad idea. All right. Anything else under communications?
Mike, let's do a 5-minute break.
Okay, before we do that,
I'm sorry, I have more. Communication miscellaneous?
sure.
And I'm gonna ask Noah for help. I know we have a couple of retired people up. Jeannie Bergman's now retired, as well as Bob Meyer. And I don't wanna leave anybody out. Is there anybody else that has served the city for a long period of time? And
So Jeannie Bergman retired in January after, I believe, 23 years of service. Had a retirement celebration for her here her last week. Jamie Larson since assumed Jeannie Bergman's position. So we're excited to have Jamie in that role, and certainly thank Jeannie. And Bob Meyer will be retiring here in the coming weeks. Still confirming his last date. But Bob also worked several years with the city of New Richmond and as our water superintendent. So both leave big shoes to fill. Both contributed much of their professional career here, and a lot of institutional knowledge. I think both individuals, you ask most community members, in the case of Jeannie, if they're getting a building permit, you think of all the building permits that have been taken out, all the contractors she's worked with over the years. And the same thing for Bob in the water department. I've always joked that, Bob could draw a map of the city and tell you what every pipe, what size, what year it was put in. Just that knowledge is going to be a huge loss to us, and a very difficult position to fill. So wish both Jeannie and then Bob coming up here later this spring, both wish them both well in the future. Diane Thelke will be retiring April 1st. And so additional staff member who served the community for many years as the lead in our utility office. And again, someone that many customers have come to know over the years with questions, or for those that come in and pay their bill here in person. So all three have been outstanding employees over the years, and wish them all the best.
I'm glad you brought that up, Pete. Yeah, the city's got some great staff.
And I've talked to you
Wish 'em
about this,
well.
I've talked to you about this before, but I know that you and I are on both the same page as far as this goes. You shouldn't let Bob Meyer retire until he tells you everything that he knows about where everything is in this city. Because he's the only one that knows 80% of this, how it's all laid out and when we did that. And you should get an exit interview from Bob would be important, I think.
Well, I just want you to know that Bob did give Noah a bit of instruction, and it was actually first lesson.
Yep.
And Noah now understands that there's certain material that does flow downhill. So that's what he learned from his first meeting with Bob.
He's going to give you a demonstration on the jetting truck, too.
I'm ready for it. Let's go. All right. Any other miscellaneous communications?
I did just want to mention, and maybe for Michelle, just with the special election coming up next week, if you wanted to share anything about that. Not for a
We
long
love
time,
to talk about it. Early in-person voting is open through 5 o'clock this Friday. So normally on Fridays, we close at 11:30. We're actually staying open till 5 because by state statute, we can and should. And so people should come in and vote early. Absentee ballots were up to about 270 mailed out for this election. It is a spring primary. Only school board candidates are on it. So there's a sample in the lobby. People can come check it out anytime, and it's on our website.
I thought I saw something on social media that there was a meet the candidates kind of a thing. Does anybody know when and where that is?
I don't know. Does Tom know?
Tom Linfors, you with us?
Yeah, I think one took place already. I think there's one coming up on the 10th. I was gonna say Champs. I'm not sure. If you look at their social media pages, it's on those pages for each of the candidates.
I think some of the candidates themselves, I think, have organized those. I know
Okay.
there isn't anything scheduled
there's no-
here in terms of
Not a debate as
candidate forum or anything.
process.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, they're individual. Yep.
All right, thank you. All right, hearing none. We're about to go into closed session per Wisconsin statute 19.851E, deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require closed session regarding property at 620 South Green Avenue. Do I hear a motion to go into closed session?
I make a motion, we go into closed session.
Is there and there is a second. Please call the roll.
Alderman Kittle?
Yes.
Alderman Breeze?
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier?
Yes.
Alderman Montello?
Yes.
Alderman Volkert?
Yes.
All right, we're going to take just a couple minute break, and we will proceed.